Yes.
Then why are you stressed?
97 on that test. My finals this Friday. 7! Alright, so again, you need to read these questions carefully. They state what they want, and I'll be very clear on the test. So as you practice, in this one, we take a sample of residents in a city to estimate the proportion. That tells me a lot right there, right? That says this is a proportion question. P-hat question. I want to find the range of values of the proportion. In the absence of preliminary data, how large a sample must be taken so a 95% confidence interval will have a margin of error of 0.05? What do I want to find on this? What variable am I looking for? I want n. I want n on this one. And this is, I want the sample size. Also, on this one, we do not have a p-hat. So that means we have to go and look at our formula sheet. By the way, Sinner, I did email you the formula sheet so you can look at that ahead of time. You don't have to worry about that today. I look here, chapter 7, and I see here that, here it is. I want my n, right? And it says if no value for p-hat is available, I use this formula here.
But can't you put in 0.5 for p?
You can. But remember, 0.5 times 0.5 is 0.25. It's the exact same formula.
Oh.
Yeah. And you can do either one. So, I use this formula. So that means that n is going to be 0.25 times z of alpha over 2 over m squared.
Is that the z?
That's a z, yeah. And again, I'm just reading it off the formula. So you got that sheet I gave you. That's the one on.
Why is it? I know, but like it's all of it.
Well, if I do not know what p-hat is, I have to use that formula.
Okay.
Okay. So all I have left to find is what? What am I missing from this formula?
Z alpha 2.
Z of alpha over 2 for a 95% confidence. We've done this lots and lots, dozens of times, right? What is it? 1.96? So n has to equal, and this, again, this is from our normal distribution table. And you look it up, but you should have a lot of these memorized. That's the z-score, right, for 95%. If we would look it up, right, if I had, here's my normal distribution. Here's 0.95, right?
But you can find that on either table.
I can look on either table. If I look on my normal distribution table, the area from here to the end, right, would be 0.975.
Oh, and then you find 0.975 on the regular z-score?
Right. Yep. And that's 1.96. So now n has to be 0.25 times 1.96. What's the m value? 0.05. That's given, right? It says we'll have a margin of 0.05, and that is squared. So I type that in, and I have 1.96 divided by 0.05. I square that.
Wait, so we do the n. Oh, it's given.
That's given, yes. Times 0.25. And I get 384.16. Now, why is that wrong?
You have to go to the nearest. You have to round up.
I always round up, right? Because I always have to have enough, right? If I didn't round up, I would not have enough to have that margin of error. So,
What does that say?
p-hat is the sample proportion. Sometimes you're given that. If I had another sample taken. So my answer would be 385.
Okay, question today.
And I always round that up. Yes.
You had the 1.96. So do we find 0.975 or
I take 0.975 in the table. So I have 0.95 from between here and here, right?
So we don't use
Each tail is 0.025.
Yeah.
But I have to look up from here to the end of my table. Okay?
So the 1.96 comes
Can
from
you like
the
show the table?
What?
Can you show the table?
So if I was going to use, so I'd use my normal table for this one, z-score, right? I'm looking for 0.975, and it's right here. 1.96. Okay? All right?
What did you write in the letter? You scroll down.
Okay, on 8, we have a sample of 100, so n is 100. 73 had reduced the water consumption, constructing 95% constant interval for proportion of residents who reduced the water consumption. Now, the key thing is I first decide, right, is this a mean or is it a proportion? It's proportion. Is it small or large? Okay, it's a large proportion.
Is that just because they're over 30?
Because we're actually over 10 for large proportions. That means that all I have to do now is I want to find I need the margin of error, right, for a proportion. So if I look at my formula sheet, I will have, for the margin of error calculations, which one do I use?
The bottom one.
It has to be the bottom one, because this is the one that has the proportions in it. Right? So that means all I have to do then is m, to my margin of error, is z of alpha over 2 times the square root of p hat times 1 minus p hat divided by n. And more than once, I've had students start freaking out now because they don't have a p hat on the test. You have to find p hat. What's p hat?
73 divided by 100.
Yeah, and my p hat, right? P hat is the sample proportion.
When do you do the x plus 2 and the n plus 4?
That's if it's less than 10. And that may not happen. We have special formulas for that. And I guess to be honest with you, I did not have that on the formula sheet, so I probably did not have that on the test. So I don't worry about that.
Which one?
If it's less than 10,
So we can just assume that all proportions have to be large?
probably.
Probably. I need 100%.
P hat is my sample. We had 73 out of that set out of 100, right? So that's 0.73. I also, of course, need to find z of alpha over 2, but what's that going to be? Again, it's 1.96, 95% constant interval. So, m is going to be 1.96, the square root of 0.73 times 1 minus 0.73 divided by 100.
My calculator would work nothing.
What?
How do you figure out z of alpha?
Just like we did last problem, it's same exact thing.
What kind of questions do you work?
I think I can say last year I probably had about 5 points each.
Okay, because sometimes my calculator work messes up my answers. They don't enter correctly.
Okay, so I just calculate this out and make sure you type it in correctly. Maybe practice doing that so you don't make a mistake of typing it in. 0.73 times.
How do you like set up the parentheses so that it doesn't?
Here's how mine's going to look. 1.96 square root of 0.73 minus 1 minus 0.73 divided by 100. .0870 is what I got.
Do you put 100 in parentheses in the calculator?
I just make sure no, I didn't on mine because I just kept it underneath the radical.
So how'd you?
And what was the answer?
So here's how mine looked on my calculator.
Like every time
There's
I
a glare on your
Google it,
screen.
and it stops.
What
What'd
answer
you get
did
for
you
an
get?
answer?
0.0870.
Okay, yeah, that's what I got.
That's not what I got.
I got 8.70.
You got how much?
8.70.
It's like when you divide by 100, something's not quite right there.
Wait, doing what?
I did it the same way you did.
We got boy or boy. Good one, thank you.
Last year I couldn't.
3 kings, that's
Now, this is not the answer, is it?
No.
No, this is just my margin of error. I got to find the range of values. When I find
0.08.
0.0870, yes. When I find the range of values, what variable goes in the middle?
The P.
Well, this time it's p, right? It's a proportion.
Is it P or P hat?
No, it's p. It's p because what's the p stand for?
So you have to subtract.
Proportion.
The population proportion.
So you subtract
And
from
P hat is
73.
sample.
Yes, so this is going to be 0.73 minus 0.0870.
Did you
How
capitalize?
much would we get docked on the test if we accidentally put it in?
Yeah.
Why do you point sample?
Not a lot, but a little bit.
Okay, so
Like a half
what
or so.
problems will we not have our answer look like this, or will all of our answers on this test?
If it asks for a confidence interval, they'll all look like this, either with a mu or a p.
Okay.
So, all right. So I've got p is between point 643.
Where are the both minus?
This is plus, and between 0.817.
Is that 0.643?
Yes.
You get to like 3 and no.
So this is the confidence interval.
Mm-hmm.
When you go through them full once.
Okay. Everybody's good on that one. What's question 9 want?
Sample size.
Okay, sample size. Now the difference. This is almost like the last one, but can anyone tell me what the difference is on this one, like number 7?
This one has 2 hat.
We have a p hat. That's the difference. Because we have a p hat, because we already had a sample that had a p hat, we can use that. And so we're going to use this formula here. If you have a p hat available, you use this formula. Okay, so n is going to be p hat times 1 minus p hat times z of alpha over 2 divided by m squared. So p hat then is what? 0.73. So 0.73 times 1 minus 0.73. Did I change my confidence interval? No. So it's 1.96. My margin of error I want is 0.05, right? I want a margin of error of 0.05 this time. So I'm saying, what do I have to do to get a smaller margin of error? How big a sample do I have to take? Because I only sampled 100 last time, and that's too big of an error. I want to have as the last one. So how many do I have to have? That's what this question is really saying. So I type that in. 0.73 times 1 minus 0.73 times 1.96 divided by 0.05 squared. And I get this to be 302.87.
Round up though, right?
Mm-hmm.
Ken Smith, you have a phone call on line 1. Ken Smith, phone call line 1.
303.
Wait, I thought the cat wasn't available
I did it yesterday.
on this one? Because we have to find it.
It was from the last question though, using the sample proportion for that. Okay? Again, I'll try to be very obvious on things on the test. I mean, it won't be these settled questions. Alright, question of 10. The amount of time that a certain cell phone will keep a charge is known to be normally distributed with standard deviation of 16 hours. What do I note about that that's significant? That's a population standard deviation. That says something about what distribution I can use. A sample of 40 cell phones had a mean time of 111 hours. Let mu represent the population mean time that a cell phone will keep a charge. What is the point estimate of mu? What do I mean by A?
Don't you just want to
All I want is the mean of the sample. So my answer is what? All I want, this is just the mean of the sample, 141 hours. This question is saying, do you understand what we mean by a point estimate? A point estimate means the sample. It means that the point that I have for my estimate of the sample mean.
Why do you set the X instead of mu?
Because this is a point estimate. I do not know mu. All I know is the sample. Remember, that's the theme of this whole chapter. I never know the population anything.
So you're just using the sample.
So all I'm saying is sample mean. What do you want to see?
I did it again.
There you go.
2 seconds.
False. I can do it by now.
Okay.
So point estimate is always
It's either mean or the sample proportion. That's all it's going to be. It's always the sample information, though. Okay. On B, what is the standard error? Now, you got to be careful on this one. This is not the margin of error, it's the standard error. Now, this actually goes back, this problem actually goes back to a little bit of chapter 6, but that's on your formula sheet. If we look at this, standard deviation or standard error, the same error of the sample mean. This is just this part that the standard error is the standard deviation of the sample mean.
Where is that located?
Well, it's right here. That's the part that's known as the standard error. That's all this one's looking for. So this is simply going to be,
Did we do this in this chapter?
in chapter 6, 16 of square root of n. What was n on this one for you?
Why are we doing something from chapter 6?
Because it's all related together on this.
Okay, but in our notes we have a completely different formula for it.
For standard error,
Yeah.
what do I have?
It's like the square root of p hat times.
But that's okay. That's for, but that is for proportions, not for means. That's why. This is 2.5 something, 2.53. Now, the question 11 is all, and 11 and 12 is built on top of this. It just continues. We'll continue the same problem about the cell phone and their charging time.
That's all. That's the answer for A. Just the given.
Yeah. Okay, number 11. Don't change it.
Should we put anything about standard area or error on the
Yeah.
Probably not. Alright, look at. Alright, so number 11. It says back to question 10. Yeah, this continues it. I could have this had more letters. I don't know why I did it like this. Suppose that 95% confidence intervals to be constructed for the mean time. What's the critical value?
It's just a z alpha over 2.
Yep, z of alpha 2 is a critical value. What's for 95%? It is
1.96.
1.96 again. I'm not gonna try to trick you on that. I'm gonna put the standard stuff on that. You're gonna see 1.96 used a lot on the test. So, how do you calculate the margin of error? M is Z alpha 2 times sigma over root n. By the way, how do I know I use Z and not T? Because I have sigma, right? I have the population. If I did not have that, I'd have to use T. That's really the critical part of that. So this is 1.96 times 16 to the square root of, what, 40? We found that part. You multiply that answer by 1.96. And the answer is... how about 4.96? All right, now, last, how do I come up with this interval? What do I do? What variable goes in the middle? Mu, right? Mu has to be between, and the sample mean was how much? 141, so it's 141 minus 4.96.
So when you pick the number that you like subtract from, it's either the sample mean or whatever.
Sample mean or sample proportion, right? In this case, the sample mean. So mu has to be between, I got what, 136 and 146.
You have to round it up to a complete hour.
You don't have to. I don't have much rules for rounding on this, so. It's real close to those values. So,
Question.
yes.
On this one you chose 141, but on the one before, how come you chose 0.73
And not 73, because it's a proportion. Proportions have to be all the percentages or a number between 0 and 1.
So you have to round up on these two?
You don't have to. You could have 36.04.
So it doesn't matter.
No.
So you're supposed to round.
Why do you round up?
I said, I just asked them.
I guess I chose because they're awful close. You didn't have to. You didn't have to round on these. Okay.
The one before you have to round on, right?
Well, if I'm finding n, yes, n has to be a whole number. Because
Number 9.
number 9 was an n value. It has to be a whole number. I'm looking for my sample size. Okay, 12 wants to find what on this one?
Sample size.
I want to find n, right? Sample size on the same information. So again, on the formula sheet, right here is n, right? N is z of alpha 2 times sigma over m squared. That is what's margin error of m. So I just plugged in my formula. N equals, again,
Steve, have you ever made machines devices like that in the formula sheet?
I have not, no.
Because I'm pretty sure we all do.
Dude, which one are you?
I have to find, I need the sample size for mu, right? The margin error of m.
I thought you wanted in.
What else? That's the one I have to use for this. What other ones do I use? Because there's a proportion, and this is a mean.
I really don't see
I thought we were trying to
Z of alpha 2 would be 1.96. Sigma is 16. M is 1.
Well, that's a good one. Wait, how is
How'd you get 1?
Because it said
1 hour. Okay.
margin error of 1 hour. That is a 1.96 times 16 squared, right? 983.44.
And you have to go to 984.
Because I'm picking a size. How many people I want to need to survey? I need to survey 984 people.
And there might be a 44 because of the
Okay, number 13. This time. You guys ready? I have surveyed 102 U.S. adult drivers. 265 state that traffic is getting worse in their community. Construct a 95% constant for the proportion of adult drivers who think that traffic is getting worse.
2, you said 95.
Oh, 99. How do I find the M? Alright, I need the margin of error, right? To have the interval. M is what? I don't have a lot of choice again. This is a proportion. Yes. So, P hat, my sample proportion is 265 out of 802.
Let's make that sound again.
0.330. Marian's quiet down. Alright, so that, I have to find that, right? I have to find my proportion. Now, M equals Z of alpha over 2 times the square root of P hat times 1 minus P hat divided by N. Okay, Z of alpha over 2. Now, this changed again, right? For 99 is what? 2.575. Square root of P hat was 0.330 times 1 minus 0.330 over N, which was 802. And I get 0.0428. But that's not the answer.
So then you have to take it minus 0.330.
So,
Wait, can you have an... Oh, whatever.
P hat, what goes in the middle of my interval? P, my populated proportion, is greater than 0.330 minus 0.0428 and less than 0.330 plus 0.0428. So my answer would be P hat is between 0.287, P, and 0.373. There's my answer. Okay, we good? Okay. Sorry, it slid down. How's that? 13. How large is samples need? What am I trying to find? N. We know that N, if it's a proportion, again, not a lot of choices, N is P hat times 1 minus P hat times the square, or times Z of alpha over 2 divided by M. Now, it says use the sample proportion P hat. So we know P hat. P hat's what? 0.330. So 0.330, that's from question number 13. 1 minus 0.330. Wait, what's Z of alpha over 2?
3.575.
What's M? 0.08. So I type that in.
Where did you get this from?
Again, it's on chapter 7 right here.
And you do that because you know he has.
Yes. And I get an answer of 229.0607. Which means I'd answer what? N equals 229.07
Wait, so you have to round it?
to what?
230.
230.
Ow.
Oh my god.
Ow.
230.
Yeah, Steve.
Can you send us like your sheet? Like the email it to us?
I can. Also, I'm hoping to post this on YouTube on my channel. So
You're gonna get a lot of views.
Yeah,
dude.
subscribe.
People that will really.
I don't know what your YouTube channel's called, Stu. It's
Dude, when
just
you wrote this review, you should have known this was going to happen.
StuTube? Do you have your own?
Stu2.
of course.
You need to name it Stu2.
StuTube. Terry Bird came up with that one.
STU.
What's the difference on 15?
You don't have
If you don't have p hat, what do you do? Use the other formula, or you just call p hat 0.5, which is what that formula does. So, or it's just n equals 0.25 times zf alpha over 2 over m squared.
It's a 5.
So, n equals 0.25. I'm still at 95%, right? But still 2.575. That's the other formula. If no value for p prime is available, use this formula.
I can't. My people are talking. I can't understand.
On the formula sheet, it says right here that if no value for p hat is available, use this one. Let's see. What's m?
0.08.
That equals answer is 260.
0.0008.
Yeah, something like that.
That's a lot of
Dude,
Always round up.
I just called him 2, so it's 2.
That person doesn't
Just
even
do.
exist.
What's 260 minus 30?
You're right. I'm a figment of your imagination, so.
230.
Are we gonna be able to type correctly? Oh wait, never mind. It's 2.
Military time.